Emma Price checked her reflection in the restaurant window one last time. Her 3 daughters pressed against her legs like nervous little shadows. Lily, Sophie, and Maya, 6 years old. Identical blonde curls matching pink dresses that had taken an hour to negotiate that morning. They looked perfect. Emma looked perfect. The lie was almost convincing. "Mommy," Maya whispered, tugging on her red dress. "I were going to get rejected again." The word hit Emma like a slap. Rejected. Her 6-year-old daughter knew that word, used it casually because they'd lived it 17 times in 3 years. 17 first dates that ended the moment her triplets walked through the door. 17 men who'd said they understood, who'd claimed kids weren't a problem, who'd smiled and nodded until they actually saw 3 identical 6-year-olds and suddenly remembered urgent work emergencies. Not this time. Emma lied, smoothing Ma's curls. "Marcus said he wants to meet you." "They always say that," Lily said with the jaded wisdom of a child who'd learned not to hope. Sophie just held Emma's hand tighter, her small fingers cold despite the warm evening. Emma's sister had sworn Marcus was different. "He's a single dad himself. He gets it. He won't run." She'd learned to recognize the look, the subtle panic that flickered across men's faces when they realized her daughters weren't a cute accessory, but actual human beings who asked questions and spilled things and needed attention. She was already braced for number 18. "Okay, girls, shoulders back, chins up. We're going to walk in there like we own the place, and if he doesn't like it, that's his loss." "Got it." "Got it," the triplets chorus, but their voices trembled. Emma pushed open the door to Bellisimo's and immediately felt the weight of every eye in the restaurant turning toward them. A beautiful blonde woman in an evening dress, 3 small children in tow. The judgment was instant and invisible and crushing. What kind of woman brings children to a date? The kind who can't afford a babysitter and refuses to lie about who she is. The hostess smiled with practiced politeness. "Reservation name?" "Price. Marcus should already be here." "Oh yes, right this way." They wove through the intimate dining room, past couples sharing wine and whispered conversations, past families celebrating occasions Emma couldn't afford, past people whose lives looked so much simpler than hers felt. Emma's heels clicked on hardwood. Her daughter's Mary Janes pattered beside her. Every step felt like walking toward a firing squad. The hostess stopped at a table near the window. "Here we are." Emma's breath caught. Marcus stood as they approached, and he was nothing like she'd expected. Tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair showing distinguished silver at the temples. Strong jaw. Warm brown eyes behind stylish glasses. He wore a navy button-up that fit him perfectly. Sleeves rolled to his forearms in a way that suggested confidence without trying. He was gorgeous. Really, genuinely, devastatingly gorgeous. Which made this so much worse because gorgeous men didn't date single mothers with 3 kids. They said they would. Then they looked at the reality and found excuses. Emma steeled herself, already composing the text she'd send her sister later. "You were wrong." He ran. They always run. Marcus's gaze moved from Emma to the triplets, and Emma watched for it. The flicker of panic, the subtle step backward, the forced smile that meant he was already planning his exit. Instead, Marcus did something no man had done in 17 attempts. He smiled. A real smile that reached his eyes and crinkled the corners. And then he did something even more unexpected. He knelt down right there in the middle of the restaurant in his perfectly pressed shirt. Marcus dropped to one knee so he was at the triplets' eye level. "Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel." "Hi," Marcus said softly, his voice warm and genuine. "You must be Lily, Sophie, and Maya. Your mom told me all about you." 3 pairs of identical brown eyes stared at him with suspicion. They'd learned not to trust adult kindness. It always came with conditions. "I'm Marcus," he continued, undeterred by their silence. "And I have to tell you something really important. Are you ready?" Maya nodded slowly. Lily crossed her arms. Sophie just watched. "I'm nervous," Marcus said, and Emma's eyes widened. "Really, really nervous, because I haven't been on a date in 2 years, and I'm kind of terrible at this. So, I was hoping maybe you three could help me not mess this up. Would that be okay?" Something shifted in the girls' faces. The walls didn't come down completely, but they cracked. "You're nervous?" Lily asked, disbelief in her voice. "Absolutely terrified," Marcus admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "Your mom is way out of my league, and you three are clearly the toughest critics I'll ever face. So, I'm definitely sweating through this shirt right now." Maya giggled. Actually giggled. Emma felt her throat tighten. "We can help," Sophie said quietly. "We know a lot about dates. We've been on 17. Marcus's eyes flicked up to Emma's for just a moment, and she saw something there. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. Like he knew exactly what those 17 meant. "Then I'm in good hands," Marcus said. He stood, gestured to the table. "Shall we?" The girls climbed into their chairs, a booster seat the restaurant had provided without being asked. Emma noticed while Marcus pulled out Emma's chair for her. His hand brushed her lower back just briefly, a gesture so natural and respectful it made her skin warm. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, "for her ears only. And before you panic or make excuses or apologize for bringing them, don't. I'm glad they're here. I wanted to meet them." Emma sat unable to form words. This was new territory, uncharted waters. She didn't know the script for a man who actually meant what he said. A server appeared immediately, handing out menus and a special kids menu with crayons. "Can I start you with something to drink?" "I want chocolate milk," Maya announced. "We all want chocolate milk," Lily added. "It's our tradition." "On dates?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious. "Mommy says, if we're going to suffer through boring grown-up talk, we should at least get chocolate milk," Sophie explained matter-of-factly. Emma wanted to die, just sink through the floor and disappear forever. "Girls, you can't just—" But Marcus was laughing, really laughing, the kind that made his shoulders shake. "That's the best dating philosophy I've ever heard. Make it 4 chocolate milks, please." The server grinned and left. Emma stared at Marcus like he'd grown a second head. "You don't have to drink chocolate milk," she said weakly. "Are you kidding? I love chocolate milk. I just haven't had an excuse to order it in public in about 20 years. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes warm. "Emma, I meant what I said in my texts. I wanted to meet them. They're part of your life. That means they're part of getting to know you." "Most men don't see it that way," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Most men are idiots," Marcus replied simply. He turned to the girls. "So, I hear you're all in first grade. What's your favorite subject?" And just like that, they were off. The triplets, who usually remained quiet and weary around new people, started talking. Maya loved our class. Lily was obsessed with learning to read. Sophie announced she was going to be a scientist and study bugs. Marcus listened to every word like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever heard. He asked follow-up questions. He told them about his own daughter, Zoe, 13, currently at her mother's house for the weekend. He made jokes that went over their heads but made them laugh anyway as funny faces. Emma sat there, her chocolate milk untouched, watching a man engage with her daughters like they mattered, like they were actual people worth knowing instead of obstacles to navigate around. The food came. Marcus had ordered them the chicken fingers without being asked, somehow knowing they wouldn't want the fancy kids' menu options. He cut Maya's chicken into smaller pieces when she struggled with her knife. He wiped Sophie's chocolate milk mustache with his napkin. He complimented Lily on using her fork properly. Small things, tiny gestures that most people wouldn't even notice. Emma noticed every single one. "Mommy's crying," Maya announced, looking concerned. Emma quickly dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. "Happy tears, baby. Just happy tears." Marcus reached across the table and squeezed her hand briefly, a question in his eyes. Emma nodded. More than okay for the first time in 3 years. She was sitting across from a man who saw her daughters and didn't run, who smiled at their chaos instead of flinching from it, who ordered chocolate milk and cut chicken and didn't check his watch every 5 minutes. "Can we ask Marcus something?" Lily said, looking at her mother. "Of course." Lily turned to Marcus with the seriousness only a 6-year-old could muster. "Do you have a girlfriend?" "Lily." Emma's face flushed hot, but Marcus just shook his head, smiling. "Nope, no girlfriend. That's kind of why I'm here. I was hoping to, maybe, possibly, if things went well, ask your mom on a second date. But I need your permission first." 3 pairs of eyes went wide. "Our permission." "Sophie, breathe. Absolutely. You're the most important people in your mom's life. If you don't like me, then I completely understand. But if you think maybe I'm okay, just okay, not even great, I'll work on great later. Then maybe you'd be willing to let me take you all to the park next weekend. There's a playground and ice cream, and I promise to push you on the swings until my arms fall off." The triplets looked at each other, having one of their silent conversations that only siblings could have. Some invisible conference where opinions were shared and debated without a single word spoken. Finally, Maya spoke for all of them. "We think you're nice and you bought us chocolate milk, so we'll give you a chance, but if you make our mommy sad, we're 6, but we're very scary." Marcus held up his hand solemnly. "I promise to do my absolute best not to make your mommy sad. And if I do accidentally, I give you full permission to be as scary as you need to be." "Deal," all 3 girls said in unison. Emma felt tears threatening again. She excused herself to the bathroom, needing a moment to compose herself before she completely fell apart at the table. In the bathroom, she stared at her reflection. Red dress, blonde hair, makeup starting to smudge from almost tears, and tried to process what was happening. This wasn't supposed to be how it went. Men didn't kneel down to talk to her daughters, didn't order chocolate milk and mean it, didn't ask 6-year-olds for permission for a second date. Her phone buzzed, a text from her sister. "How bad is it? Do you need an escape call?" Emma typed back with shaking hands. "I think I just met the man I'm going to marry." She hit send before she could overthink it, then stared at the words on her screen. It was insane. Completely, totally insane. You didn't know you were going to marry someone after 1 date. Except somehow, Emma did. When she returned to the table, dessert had arrived. 3 sundaes for the girls, and Marcus had ordered the tiramisu to share. "I hope that's okay," he said. "The girls insisted you like coffee flavor." "We pay attention," Lily said proudly. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter and easy conversation. The girls showed Marcus the drawings they had made with their crayons, a picture of all 6 of them at the park, and noticed, including Marcus's daughter, Zoe, who they'd never met. Marcus told them about being a high school history teacher and somehow made the Roman Empire sound like the most exciting thing in the world. He asked Emma about her work as a nurse and actually listened to her answers instead of waiting for his turn to talk. When the check came, Marcus insisted on paying, waving off Emma's protests. "This was the best date I've had in my entire life," he said. "I'm not letting you pay for the best date of my life." Outside the restaurant, the evening had turned cool. Marcus shrugged off his jacket and draped it over Emma's shoulders without asking. It smelled like him. something clean and woody and safe. "So," Marcus said, his hands in his pockets, looking suddenly nervous again. "I know I already asked the girls, but I should probably ask you directly. Would you want to go out again? All four of you? I mean, maybe next Saturday. Park ice cream. No pressure." Emma looked down at her daughters, who were nodding so enthusiastically their curls bounced. "We'd love to," Emma said softly. "Yeah." Marcus's smile could have lit up the entire street. "Yeah." Marcus glanced at the girls, then back at Emma. "Would be okay if I hugged you goodbye, or is that too much for a first date?" Emma's answer was to step forward into his arms. Marcus held her gently like she was something precious, and Emma realized this was the first time in 3 years a man had hugged her without it feeling like a transaction or an expectation. It just felt like warmth and possibility. And maybe, just maybe, hope. When they pulled apart, Maya tugged on Marcus's pant leg. "You forgot to hug us, too." Marcus laughed and knelt down again, opening his arms. All 3 girls piled in, and Emma watched this man she just met hold her daughters like they mattered, like they were worth his time and attention and care. "See you Saturday," Marcus said when they finally separated. "I'll text you tomorrow to work out the details, if that's okay." More than okay. Emma loaded her girls into her beat-up Honda, and they were barely out of the parking lot before the interrogation began. "Mommy, he was so nice," Maya said. "He didn't look at his phone once," Lily added. "Remember that one guy who looked at his phone the whole time?" Marcus listened when we talked. Sophie said, like, really listened. His eyes didn't go blank like other people. Emma's hands tightened on the steering wheel, tears streaming down her face now that her daughters couldn't see. He really listened. "Are we going to keep him?" Maya asked. Emma laughed through her tears. "We'll see, honey. But I think he might be a keeper." That night, after the girls were asleep, all 3 of them in Emma's bed because they were too excited to sleep alone, Emma's phone lit up with a text from Marcus. "Thank you for tonight. Your daughters are extraordinary. You're extraordinary. I just wanted you to know I'm sitting here grinning like an idiot because I can't believe I get to see you all again on Saturday. Sleep well." Emma typed back. "Thank you for being you. We can't wait for Saturday." She added, after a moment's hesitation. "You should know. In 3 years, you're the first person who's ever asked for a second date. You're also the first person my daughters have ever approved of. So, no pressure. But you've already ruined us for anyone else." His response came immediately. "Good, because you've already ruined me for anyone else, too." Saturday arrived, wrapped in sunshine and unseasonable warmth. Emma dressed the girls in jeans and t-shirts, matching again, because that's what they wanted, and spent an embarrassing amount of time on her own outfit. Casual, but cute. Effortless, but clearly she'd made an effort. Marcus picked them up in a sensible SUV, and in the back seat was a booster seat. 3 booster seats, actually, already installed and waiting. "I've borrowed them from a teacher friend," Marcus explained when he saw Emma's expression. "Figured it would be easier than transferring yours every time." Every time. Like he was already planning beyond today. Like he saw a future here. The park was perfect. Sprawling and green with a massive playground that made the girls shriek with excitement. Marcus's daughter Zoe was waiting by the swings, 13 years old, with dark hair in a ponytail and her father's warm eyes. She looked nervous. "Zoe, this is Emma, and these are her daughters, Lily, Sophie, and Maya." Marcus made the introductions with care. "Hi," Zoe said shilly. "Dad said, you guys like swings. Want me to push you?" The triplets looked at each other, then at Zoe, then simultaneously launched themselves at the swing set with ear-splitting squeals. Zoe laughed and followed, and within minutes the 4 girls were playing like they'd known each other forever. She was nervous, Marcus admitted, standing next to Emma as they watched About Meeting You, about me dating again. Her mom remarried last year, and I think Zoe thought I'd be alone forever. What changed her mind? Emma asked. I told her about you, about your daughters, about chocolate milk and chicken fingers, and 3 little girls who asked me if I had a girlfriend. Marcus smiled. Zoe said anyone who let their kids be part of the dating process was either brave or crazy. Then she asked if she could meet them. They spent 3 hours at that park. The girls played. Zoe turned out to be wonderful with them. Patient and kind and silly in the way teenage girls can be when they're not worried about being cool. Marcus pushed all 4 girls on the swings until his arms did. In fact, almost fall off. Emma watched it all from a bench, her heart doing things she'd thought it forgot how to do. Ice cream came next, a local shop where Marcus knew the owner and got them all samples before they ordered. The girls made a production of trying every flavor, ranking them by color and taste and funniness. Emma ordered butter pecan. Marcus got mint chocolate chip and offered her a bite without thinking about it. The kind of casual intimacy that comes with time, not one date. This is really good, Emma said, the mint cool on her tongue. Want to trade for a bite of yours? Marcus asked. They traded cones like teenagers, and Zoe rolled her eyes but smiled. And the triplets didn't even notice because they were too busy wearing more ice cream than they were eating. Later, after the sugar rush had faded and they'd worn themselves out on the playground's climbing structure, they found a shady spot under an oak tree. The girls collapsed on the grass, Zoe pulling out her phone to show them pictures of her cat. Marcus spread out his jacket for Emma to sit on, then settled beside her, close enough that the shoulders touched. Thank you for today, Emma said quietly. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Marcus replied, I know this is complicated for kids, exes, schedules. I know it's not easy. Is that going to be a problem? Marcus turned to look at her, his brown eyes serious. Emma, I'm a high school history teacher. Single dad. My ex-wife left me for her personal trainer 3 years ago. I grade papers until midnight. I can barely cook anything that doesn't come from a box, and I cry during animated movies. I'm not exactly a catch, Emma laughed. I'm a single mom with triplets who work opposite shifts at the hospital, so I never see sunlight. I survive on coffee and willpower, and my car is held together by duct tape and prayer. I think we're both disasters. Maybe disasters go well together, Marcus said. Maybe we can be disasters who make each other's lives a little less disastrous. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me, Emma admitted. Yeah. Marcus's voice was warm. Yeah. They sat in comfortable silence, watching their girls play. Zoe was teaching the triplets some kind of clapping game, all 4 of them dissolving into giggles when someone messed up the rhythm. I need to tell you something, Emma said finally. I don't know how to do this slowly. I don't know how to be casual about dating when I have 3 kids depending on me to make smart choices. So, if you're looking for something light or undefined or I'm not, Marcus interrupted gently. I'm 42 years old. I've done casual. I've done undefined. I know what I want now, and I don't have time to waste pretending I don't. Emma's heart hammered. What do you want? Marcus took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. I want to see where this goes. Really see it? Not just dip my toe in and run when it gets complicated. I want to text you good morning and good night. I want to meet you for coffee between your shifts. I want our girls to be friends. I want to sit on your couch after they're all asleep and just talk about our days. I want a chance to build something real, even if it's messy and hard. We have to schedule dates 3 weeks in advance because coordinating 4 kids is like planning a military operation. Emma felt tears pressing behind her eyes again. That's what I want too. Then let's do that, Marcus said simply. Over the next 3 months, they did exactly that. They texted constantly good morning messages and funny memes and venting about difficult days. They met for coffee during Emma's 1-5-minute breaks, Marcus showing up at the hospital with her favorite latte and 15 minutes of stolen time. They had official dates, sometimes just the two of them when they could coordinate babysitting. More often with all 4 girls because that's how their lives worked. The girls became inseparable. Zoe took her role as oldest seriously, teaching the triplets card games and nail polish and how to braid hair. The triplets adored her, following her around like tiny blonde ducklings. Marcus met Emma's sister and parents, who grilled him mercilessly before declaring him acceptable barely. Emma met Marcus's parents, who welcomed her with open arms and treated the triplets like the grandchildren they'd been longing for. They navigated ex-spouse drama, Marcus's ex-wife's opinion about him dating, Emma's ex-husband's attempts to resurface after years of no contact. They figured out schedules and custody arrangements, and who picked up which kid from which activity. They learned each other's coffee orders and favorite takeout, and the exact words needed to diffuse an argument before it escalated. It was messy. It was complicated. It was absolutely nothing like the fairy tale Emma had imagined as a young woman. It was better. 6 months after their first date, Marcus asked Emma to move in. Not because it was romantic or because they were rushing, but because they were at each other's places every night anyway, and paying 2 rents made no financial sense. His house was bigger, had a yard, was closer to the good school district. But only if you want to, Marcus said. No pressure. We can keep doing this the way we have been. I just thought yes, Emma interrupted. The answer is yes, but we need to ask the girls first. All 6 of them sitting around Marcus's dining room table with pizza and serious expressions. Emma and I have something we want to talk to you about, Marcus began. You're getting married, Maya shrieked. Not yet, Marcus said, his eyes meeting Emma's with a promise. But we were thinking Emma and the girls might move in here so we could all be together more. What do you think? The girls' reactions were immediate and unanimous. Yes. Can we paint our room? Will Professor Whiskers move too? Who's Professor Whiskers? Marcus asked. Our cat, Lily explained. He's very judgmental. Marcus laughed. Of course, Professor Whiskers can move in. Everyone moves in. Zoe had been quiet, picking at her pizza crust. Now she looked up at Emma, her eyes uncertain. What should I call you? Are you going to be my stepmom? Emma reached across the table and took Zoe's hand. You can call me whatever feels comfortable. I'm not trying to replace your mom, but I'm here and I care about you and I'll always be in your corner. If you want to call me Emma, that's perfect. If someday you want to call me something else, that's perfect too. There's no pressure, just love. Zoe's eyes filled with tears and she nodded, squeezing Emma's hand back. Moving day was chaos. The triplets helped by unpacking one box and immediately getting distracted. Professor Whiskers hid under the guest bed for 3 days. Zoe claimed the bedroom next to the triplets' room so she could keep an eye on the chaos. Emma's small apartment worth of belongings looked tiny spread throughout Marcus's house. It felt right. That first night, after all 4 girls were finally asleep, Emma and Marcus collapsed on the couch. The house was a disaster. Boxes everywhere, nothing put away, total chaos. We're crazy, Emma said, her head on Marcus's shoulder. Completely, Marcus agreed. But I don't want to be saying if this is what crazy looks like. Emma turned to look at him. This man who'd knelt down in a restaurant 6 months ago, who'd ordered chocolate milk and kept every promise he'd made, who'd welcomed 3 chaotic girls into his life like he'd been waiting for them all along. I love you, she said. Simple words that carried 3 years of rejection and fear and hope. And finally, trust. I love you too. Marcus replied. You and 3 blonde tornadoes and a judgmental cat. Best package deal ever. Best package deal ever. 1 year after their first date, Marcus proposed, not in a restaurant, not in a grand stage, in their kitchen on a random Tuesday night after Emma's shift at the hospital. The girls were supposed to be in bed. Of course, they were all peeking around the corner because 6-year-olds and 1 3-year-olds are terrible at staying where they're told. Emma Price, Marcus said, getting down on one knee for the second time in their relationship. A year ago, you walked into Bellisimo's with 3 beautiful girls and the bravest heart I've ever known. You could have left when things got hard. You could have protected yourself, but you didn't. You chose to trust me with the most precious parts of your life. You chose to let me in, and I'm asking, will you choose me for forever? Will you marry me? Will you let me love you and your girls for the rest of my life? He held out a ring, simple, elegant, with 3 small diamonds set alongside the center stone. 1 for each of them, Marcus explained, because they're part of this too. Emma was crying too hard to speak. She nodded, held out her shaking hand, let Marcus slide the ring on her finger behind them, for girls erupted in cheers. She said, "Yes, we're getting married." I knew it. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. The girls were flower girls, Lily, Sophie, and Maya, and matching lavender dresses. Zoe, and a slightly more sophisticated version. They took their jobs very seriously, except for the part where Maya tripped on her dress and nearly took out the unity candle. Emma walked down the aisle in a simple ivory dress, her father on one arm, her sister on the other. But her eyes were only for Marcus, standing at the altar in his navy suit, looking at her like she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Their vows were simple, promises to show up, to stay, to love through chaos and exhaustion, and every messy moment life would throw at them. Promises to be a team, to support each other, to parent these 4 girls with everything they had. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," the triplets cheered so loudly the guests laughed. And when Emma and Marcus turned to face their family, 4 girls ran forward to complete the hug, and the photographer captured it. 6 people who become a family, not by birth or by law, but by choice. At the reception during the parent dances, Emma danced with her father while Marcus danced with Zoe. Then, in a move they planned together, they invited the triplets to join them on the dance floor. 4 girls, 2 parents, swang to music while the guests watched with tissues in hand. "We made it," Emma whispered to Marcus. All 6 of them wrapped in an embrace on the dance floor. "We did," Marcus agreed, "and we're just getting started." For years later, Emma stood in the kitchen of their home, bigger now because they needed the space, making breakfast while controlled chaos erupted around her. The triplets were 10, arguing about who got the blue bowl for cereal. Zoe was 17, helping Lily with her math homework while simultaneously texting her friends. Professor Whiskers watched from his perch on the refrigerator, judging everyone equally. Marcus came up behind Emma, wrapped his arms around her waist, kissed her neck softly. "Good morning, Mrs. Matthews." Emma leaned back into his embrace, watched their family interact with the ease of long practice. This was her life now, messy and loud, and nothing like she'd planned. It was perfect. She thought about that night 4 years ago when she'd stood outside Bellisimo's, terrified of rejection number 18, her daughters pressed against her legs, armor up and ready to leave. She thought about Marcus kneeling down, looking at 3 scared little girls and choosing them anyway. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show up as you are, chaos and all, and hope someone sees you, really sees you. Not the polished version or the protected version, but the real, messy, complicated you. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, someone does. Marcus had seen Emma that night, had seen 3 frightened girls and a mother doing her best, and he hadn't run. He'd knelt down. He'd ordered chocolate milk. He'd asked for permission for a second date from the 3 toughest critics he'd ever face. He'd chosen them. And every single day for 4 years, he kept choosing them. Through sleepless nights and sick kids and scheduled conflicts and blended family growing pains. Through the beautiful moments and the hard ones. Through every messy, imperfect, real day of building a life together. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, his chin resting on her shoulder. "How lucky we are," Emma said softly. "Lucky? We're outnumbered by children and judged by a cat." Emma laughed, turned in his arms. "Lucky," she repeated firmly. "Because you showed up, you stayed. You chose us." "Lucky," she repeated firmly. "Because you showed up, you stayed. You chose us." Marcus pulled back slightly, his eyes searching her face with that intensity that still made her breath catch after 4 years. "Do you know what I think about sometimes?" "What?" "That night, that first night at Bellisimo's. I almost didn't go." Emma's eyes widened. "What?" Marcus nodded, his expression sheepish. "I was sitting in my car outside the restaurant for 20 minutes, giving myself every excuse to drive away. Your sister had told me about the triplets, and I kept thinking, I can't do this. What do I know about 6-year-old girls, let alone 3 of them at once?" Emma's throat tightened. "Why didn't you leave?" "Because I kept remembering what your sister said, that you were the strongest person she knew, that you'd been rejected 17 times and kept showing up anyway, that your daughters had learned to expect rejection. So, well, they'd practice their brave faces in the mirror." Marcus's voice cracked slightly, and I thought, what kind of man would I be if I became number 18? Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. "I never knew that. I almost called you from the car. Almost told you I couldn't make it. My finger was literally hovering over your number. And then I saw you through the restaurant window. Saw you kneeling on the sidewalk in that red dress holding your daughters, building them up, being their armor. And I realized this woman doesn't need someone to rescue her. She needs someone brave enough to stand beside her." "So? You came inside?" Emma whispered. "So, I came inside and I made myself a promise right then. I promised that no matter how scared I was, no matter how complicated things got, I would not be the reason those 3 little girls learned to expect less than they deserved." Emma was fully crying now, her hands fisted in Marcus's shirt. "You kept that promise. Every single day, you kept it. There's more," Marcus said softly. "Something I've never told you. 2 weeks after we started dating, my ex-wife called, said she'd heard I was seeing someone with 3 kids, told me I was making a mistake, that I should end it before I got in too deep." Emma felt anger flash through her. She had no right. For about 5 minutes, I listened. I let doubt creep in. What if she was right? What if I couldn't do this? Marcus smiled softly, and then Maya did something that changed everything. "Remember that Sunday at the farmer's market? You and Lily and Sophie had gone to look at the flowers, and I was with Maya by the fruit stand. She looked up at me and said, 'Marcus, are you going to leave like the others did?'" Emma's breath hitched. She remembered that day. Remembered Marcus disappearing with Maya, coming back with strawberries and a strange expression. I knelt down and told her the truth, that I was scared, that I didn't always know what I was doing, but that I wasn't going anywhere. And you know what she did? Marcus's eyes were bright with tears. She put her little hand on my cheek and said, "It's okay to be scared. Mommy's scared too, but she shows up anyway. That's what brave means. 6 years old, Emma." And she understood courage better than most adults I know. Emma pulled him close, buried her face in his neck. "I love you so much, it terrifies me sometimes." "Good," Marcus murmured. "I'd be worried if you weren't a little terrified. means it matters. Mom. Lily's voice broke through their moment. Sophie said, I calculated my math wrong, but I didn't. You're both wrong. Zoe called from the table. The answer is 42. Emma laughed against Marcus's chest. Duty calls. Our duty, Marcus corrected. Always our duty. Later that day, after Marcus had taken the girls to soccer practice, Emma found herself in the room that had become their memory wall. Photos covered every surface. The first date her sister had secretly captured through the window. Moving day chaos, the proposal, the wedding. But one photo always drew her back. The restaurant photo from that first night in a silver frame Marcus had chosen. It captured the moment right before he knelt down. Emma, with her daughters pressed against her. Armor up, ready for rejection. The girls' faces showed fear and hope, and Marcus, his eyes on the triplets, his expression showing the exact moment he decided to stay. That's my favorite photo, too. Zoe's voice came from behind her. Emma turned surprised. I thought you were at practice. Dad dropped me off early. I forgot my cleats. Zoe moved beside Emma, studying the photo. I remember when Dad came home that night. He sat in the living room for an hour, staring at nothing with this small smile. I asked if he liked you, and he said, I think I just met my family. Emma's eyes filled with tears. After one date. After one date. Zoe leaned her head on Emma's shoulder. I didn't get it then. I was 13 and angry and scared. But now, I get it. He didn't fall in love with just you that night. He fell in love with all four of you. We are a mess, Emma agreed, laughing through tears. The best kind. Zoe was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Always. When Dad first told me he was dating someone with triplets, I was so mad. I thought I'd be invisible. 3 new kids, all needing attention. Zoe turned to face Emma fully. I was wrong, because you didn't just marry Dad. You chose me, too. You never tried to replace my mom or force anything. You just showed up every single day. You make it easy, Emma said softly. I don't always. I was a nightmare that first year testing you, seeing if you'd leave, and you never did. Zoe's voice trembled. So, I wanted to tell you officially that I'd like to call you Mom now if that's okay. Not instead of my mom, but in addition to her. Because you earned it. Emma pulled Zoe into a fierce hug, both of them crying. I would be honored. So honored. That evening, when Marcus came home with 3 exhausted triplets, they gathered for family meeting time. Zoe made her announcement about upgrading Emma to Mom, capital M, full title. The room erupted. The triplets launched themselves at Emma and Zoe. Marcus sat frozen, eyes suspiciously bright before joining the pylon. My girls, he said, voice thick with emotion. All my girls. We're sisters now, Maya announced. Really, really sisters? We were always sisters, Zoe corrected. I'm just making it official. Later that night, after the girls were finally asleep, Emma and Marcus found themselves back in the kitchen. 4 years ago, Emma said, I walked into a restaurant expecting rejection number 18, and instead, Marcus said, pulling her close, you gave me the greatest gift of my life, a family, a purpose, a reason to be braver than I thought I could be. Emma looked up at him. We're really doing this, aren't we? This whole messy, beautiful life. Every single day, Marcus promised. I choose you every single day. Best choice I ever made, Marcus said. He kissed her softly, ignoring the exaggerated gagging sounds from the triplets. Every single day, Emma, I choose you every single day. And he did. Through soccer games and school plays and teenage drama and elementary school chaos, through job changes and family vacations and quiet Sunday mornings. through every moment that made up their life together, the big ones and the small ones and all the ordinary ones in between. For years ago, Emma had walked into a restaurant expecting rejection number 18. Instead, she found a man who knelt down to meet her daughters at their level, who ordered chocolate milk without being asked, who saw family in the making where others had seen only complications. She found home. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please don't let it end here. Let it remind you that kindness still matters, compassion still changes lives, and hope is never wasted. Subscribe and be part of our Heart Echo Stories family, where every story lifts the spirit and reminds us that light always finds its way back. And if this moment moved you, share it. Because sometimes sharing hope is the kindest thing we can do.